freeze!
Hello and welcome to another edition of Truth and Rhythm. Brought to you by funkiest.net, this is the interview show that gets deep in the pocket with contemporary music's foremost masters of the groove. I am your host, Scott Dr. GX Goldfine, musicologist, creative arts journalist, and multimedia pro. Whether you're watching the video version of this show or the audio-only podcast version, I thank you so much for your continued interest and support in this show. If you enjoy this programming, there are several ways to help support Truth and Rhythm, as well as contribute to further enhancements and expansion, plus get some sweet perks and rewards in the process. First, subscribe to the Funk and Stuff channel on YouTube, which is where Truth and Rhythm lives, and be an advocate by spreading the word among fellow funk, jazz, and R&B music lovers. Second, join Truth and Rhythm's new membership program through Patreon, which features 3 tiers for truth believers, truth seekers, and truth crusaders. You can also submit a direct donation to the cause anytime at funkiest.net. At that site, which is loaded with awesome content, you can also purchase the book Everything's on the One, The First Guide of Funk, shop for official Truth and Rhythm and Funk and Stuff merchandise, and use the Amazon links for all of your online purchases, which allocates a percentage to this show. Sponsorship opportunities are available as well. Contact me directly at scottg@funkieststuff.net. For those of you who go the extra step in supporting the show, you have my heartfelt gratitude for allowing us to continue to shine the light on those special artists whose quest is to find truth in rhythm. I'm pleased to welcome to the Truth and Rhythm Mothership guitarist, multi-instrumentalist, singer, composer, and producer Ronald Spearman, also known as RonKat, and leader of the Bay Area funk band Catdelic. A veteran of more than 10 years performing and recording with George Clinton and the P-Funk All-Stars, RonKat is a Grammy-nominated, award-winning songwriter whose Dance on the Mothership album was one of the last decade's funkiest highlights. Other artists he has collaborated with include Tisha Campbell, Jade, Aaron Hall, Joey Lawrence, Mickey Howard, and Brenda Russell. Very cool to have you. RonKat, how are you, man?
Good to be here. Good. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Where are you coming to us from today?
Today I'm coming to you from Missouri, St. Louis. Yeah. So I've been back here for a while, doing some recording, and just got out of California for a minute. The last part of before the COVID actually took off back there. So I do miss California very much.
Yeah, it's a bit colder where you are now.
Yeah, definitely. It's about, it was 28 degrees this morning. Now it's like probably about like 36. So trying to keep warm back here, you know, making this new funk music we've been working on. So been back here forever.
That's kind of good, though. You know, the cold keeps you inside, keeps you, you know, making the funk.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Yes.
Well, great. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. Looking forward to talking some music and funk with you.
Sure.
So, RonKat, you're originally from the Bay Area. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, you know, your upbringing and how you got into music?
Actually, I'm originally from Michigan, and then I moved to California, and in pursuit of a career in music. Along the way, met just a host of different artists and became a writer. for a living, and was in various different bands along the way, and then bumped into George Clinton and was introduced to him by a mutual friend, and then jumped on the road with them, and never got off for like 10 years. And now I'm here.
That's in a nutshell right there, man. Did you have any formal music training, or just self-taught, or?
Just some. I played with like these fusion jazz cats. Like my father used to take me to these clubs when I was like 10 to play with like these jazz musicians back in the day, like Grant Green and all these different players and stuff, and some local. And I always had the music around, from pop to funk to rock to country to everything. So it was just like a whole melting pot full of music that was around. And then from that, I think I was always writing songs all the time, creating songs and creating music in some capacity since little, and songs just pop in my head, phrases, melody lines, and beats, and all kinds of things. It just won't leave me alone. You know, but I enjoy it, you know, for the most part. It's like one of my most favorite things to do, to make music.
So, and was guitar your first primary instrument?
Actually, I had all the instruments as a kid. Like I had the guitar and drums and bass and keyboards. They were all like, just, I was surrounded by those things, so I could go and, I mean, they were toy things, but like I could go and actually create on those things and get a feel for how those things operated. And then from there, I just started creating my own sounds and learning how to just like, just create different vibes just from that point, like not really having any real formal training. But then there was always music around. Like I remember a bass fiddle player used to be like boom, 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 boom. Like from like me being a baby, I just remember looking up and seeing somebody across the hall like playing, you know, bass. And so I played bass and just everything, and singing was always around. There was always music around, always.
How old were you when you left Michigan?
Musical. I'd say I was about 17.
So, I mean, and near the Detroit area, or whereabouts in Michigan?
Grand Rapids.
Grand Rapids, so,
Michigan.
You know, I have a lot of people on the show who come from the Detroit area, and there's such a rich music history, you know, there. Is some of that sort of, you know, permeate out? I've never been to Michigan at all. So does some of it kind of permeate out to the areas like where you grew up?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with the DeBarges. You know, like, I don't know if you're familiar with, well, you must be familiar with them.
Yeah.
But I grew up with them. The pastor, I forget his name, we were just talking about him. He's a big pastor of a church now. He's, Marvin Sapp. I remember when he was a little kid, you know. And just a plethora of just like badass players and stuff, you know. Just always all these talented people. And yeah. So to the answer to your question, yes.
So
it all.
You knew the DeBarges? Did you know any of the DeBarges?
Oh yeah. I grew up with them. I went to school with them. I've written on L's records. I've been in studio. I got L on like masters of mine. You know, we still chat it up every once in a while.
Wow.
And I know all the brothers. Chico, all of them. I mean, I remember when they first got their deal. They were part of the reason why I after I got out of high school, did like maybe like a year and a half college, some junior college, is what they call it. And they went to California and made it out of high school. And then I was like, they can do it. And then I had another friend too that I grew up playing with, who was a bass player, and he went and got a record deal in California. We were all going to California. It was either go to California and make it in music, or go to General Motors and get a job. You know. So I didn't want to do that one. So go to General Motors. So I just took a shot. I had $1,000, and I went to California and cold turkey and just roughed it for a long time. I don't advise that to the youth to just like, you might want to have a little bit more than $1,000. At that time, it was a lot. But, you kind of want to get your education, and you know what I'm saying, a little bit of it anyway.
Did you go straight to the Bay Area when you came to Cali?
No, I didn't. I actually went to Los Angeles, and it was hard. It was hard. I had people telling me to go back home. They said, man, you ain't gonna make it out here. You need to just, you should probably go back home. And I didn't tell my parents that I was leaving the day that I left to go. I just packed up all my stuff and put it in the U-Haul, because I felt like I was going nowhere, like in Michigan, just for what I wanted to do. And I just didn't want to fall into the same old thing that all my friends had fell into. You know, some of them went to college and they became doctors and different stuff like that. But I knew I was going to be a doctor, you know, so, and I wasn't going to be an attorney or nothing like that, you know. And I definitely wasn't going to make nobody's cars. They wouldn't want a car that I'd be making. Maybe they might, I don't know. But, and so I just struck out, went to California, and I was determined. I wasn't coming back to Grand Rapids until I made it. I had more determination at 17 than probably I do now. You know, I guess because I kind of became successful. But it was rough, man. It was rough.
So what was the first sort of break you got music-wise once you were out there?
I met a man by the name of J.J. Jackson, and he did that song called "It's Alright, Alright Now." Doom 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 doom. I don't know if that helps, but anyway, I met him. Yeah, I met him. He had a big giant ass gold piano in his house, and he wanted me and my friend from Michigan to come and sing backups in the studio, and that was like my first paid gig. And I'm all excited. I'm like, wow, I'm proud. I think I made it, you know. And so we go and we do backups. Okay, we go and we do backups, and I'm always thinking about, like, I still think business, you know, for the most part. So I'm like, okay, so we sang the songs, cool. Where's the money at? You know, because I had heard about all these R&B singers that wasn't getting paid, and they didn't know about publishing and all that stuff. And I knew about all that kind of stuff when I got out there. And so JJ came in the studio, and he had this big giant ass chocolate cake, and we were starving musicians. So I said, so where's the money? And so he says, he started slicing up the cake, and he put out these paper plates and doled one out to everybody, and that was the payment. And I didn't realize that until after I finished eating, but I'm like, yo, like, so okay, cake was cool, so where's the paper at? And so he was like, No, didn't Clarence tell you? Clarence, my friend Clarence, he's changed his name to Shamar Niall Star. And so he said, man, he ain't gonna pay us, man. He said the payment is the cake. So I didn't want to cause, I didn't want to make any waves. So I was like, okay, well, let me have another piece then. He was like, no, man, you ain't getting no more of that cake, man. And I thought he was joking, but he wasn't. And so I was like, this guy's, he ain't cool. So we left the studio, and then he asked us again, like I think about a week or so later, to do some more backups, because we were good at backups. And that's when I learned how to just be able to do whatever it took to survive in music, which I wanted to play guitar, play bass. I could do all of those things, but that particular situation didn't call for that. So sing backups. So I sang backups. So I started making money singing backups. Then I started making money playing the bass, guitar, and all these different things. So, and then it just helped me to develop the skill.
It reminds me of, I had Bloodstone, the original guys from Bloodstone on recently, and they were talking about one of the first things they did, they got fried chicken for it. So kind of a similar thing to the cake. And I was out in Los Angeles too. They had gone out to LA. So yeah.
Man.
What was the first?
LA was hard.
What was the first gig that you actually did get paid? You were like, yeah, this might work.
I'm still waiting on that gig. No, I'm just kidding. But let's see. I don't know. There were all kinds of little victories along the way that I had to learn that were victories that I didn't realize after a while. I think for live playing, or if you just mean like a job, like my first real great paying job was like when I started doing the songwriting. The live stuff was just like, it was just not like cracked up, unless I was playing covers, and I never really would, I wouldn't do the covers. I didn't want to fall into that one either. Like I just never did the covers, and all my friends were doing covers and they were getting paid. But I just wanted to play my own original music, and I just kept that. And then I started writing songs, and then my first hit song was like this song called Good Love by Climax. And it was an R&B hit. And then I did a bunch of people. I wrote for Ralph Tresvant. I wrote for, I did some stuff that didn't come out. Did some stuff with Gladys, Stephanie Mills that came out.
You did music and lyrics?
Hit was,
did you do music and lyrics?
I did music and lyrics. Sometimes, like with my production partner, he would do the music, or sometimes I'd do the music. We both did both, but he had more experience, and that was like it was like I was being enrolled in school, like going, as an apprentice working under certain mugs. Like my writing partner Vassell Bentford, and that's where I really had my hits with him. We did the song. The first thing we did was I was a part of the New Jack City movie. I was around that time, and then we did our first hit was on the movie. I scored a little bit for Class Act. The movie was like this kid and play movie, and that's where I first had my really like my big hit. My big hit was after that, and it was called Don't Walk Away. And DJ Diplo just cut it he redid it it's been 2 years now, I think. And just did a host of other stuff. And I don't like to, I don't want to seem like I'm bragging or nothing, because it's probably, you know, a lot of people have done a lot of different things, but it is stuff that I've done. So I'm just saying what it is.
Well, that's why we're here, man, is to go through that. So no worries. What was it like when you first heard something that you were involved with, you know, on the radio or in a club or wherever it was that you heard it?
It was amazing. It still is the best reward that you can get. And then to know that people appreciate the work. That's like when the people appreciate the work and you hear it on the radio and they're, you know, it's a great feeling. It's a great sense of accomplishment to be able to like know that you started off in a kitchen writing these lyrics, not knowing where that song was going to end up or what it was going to do. And then all of a sudden, boom, blows up. And then the best part of it is going to the bank. You know, because it's the reward, you know, and it helps you to take care of your family and do other things, you know, for society, friends, or whatever it is, you know. I'm so glad that I really actually took that trip when I was 17. But at first, when I first got out of California, I was like, this is crazy. I probably would never do this again. But I couldn't stop once I got into it.
RonKat, who were some of your biggest influences early on, you know, in terms of other musicians or players, songwriters?
I mean, that's a long list. It's a long list. I mean, Beatles, John Lennon, Dylan, Prince, before Kanye went crazy, he was, you know, I'm just kidding, yeah, I'm just kidding. Jay-Z. I mean, there's still so many now that people are doing so much innovative stuff. And the DJs of the day, they like really influencing hip hop was like a big influence. You know, so many. George Clinton, you know, I didn't know that I really wasn't into the funk like that, like when I was little. Like I used to have the funk all around, and I didn't really know who that music was. And then when One Nation came out, and then I got to see the Mothership land, I was like, oh my God, this guy's amazing, you know. And then I met him, and we became like instant, you know.
How did you come to meet him? At a show or just?
I met him through a mutual friend that knew him. And at that time, I was hanging out with Rick James.
Okay, well now, how did you meet Rick James?
Okay. Rick, I met through, I used to be married to one of the Mary Jane girls, Maxie, and we have a son together. Oh. And she introduced me to him. And he came up to my house. I actually introduced Rick James to Lenny Kravitz. From what I understood, that was the first time that they met. I mean, but they were both at my house at the same time, and that was pretty amazing. Those were some cool times. Yeah, that's how I met Rick. I met Rick through Maxie, and then Maxie knew the person that introduced me to George. And then George was working on the Nike thing, and then commercial, and then he got me involved into that. And then from there we did a movie together, and then we scored and we put a bunch of songs on it, and then we just became like fast friends, and then we started just like cutting and touring, you know.
What was your first impression of Rick James?
I think when I met Rick, he's on the milder side, because you know, I wrote a song on one of Rick's records that I really think is a smash, and I don't think it really got its just due. But he was cool. Rick was a rock star, for real, you know, and you know, I didn't know he was in Buffalo, Springfield, and all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, he was a legendary guy, but I don't think Rick ever knew, because I think Rick auditioned for P-Funk at the time, like when he was younger. And I had asked George one time, I was like, how come you guys never, you know, let Rick, you know, stay in the band or be in the band or whatever? And George said, because Rick was his own star. Rick was the star. He didn't need P-Funk. He was going to be a star regardless. And those forces kind of just, but they both admired each other's work, you know. And, you know, he could be a bit, you know, brash, you know, and abrupt and crazy. And anybody, you know, get a little drink in them and whatever else, you know, can get a little obnoxious, you know. Rock and roll can make people crazy sometimes. You know, if you're not harnessed, you know, and even you might not want to harness, you might want to go just lay down. But it's a entertainment business is quite the ride.
Well,
yeah, you gotta watch it.
And what was your first impression of meeting George?
It was funny. It was funny, because he's got a great sense of humor, but he's just an awesome personality, and in depth, you know, well read. He's amazing. He's an amazing guy. You know, yeah, I learned a lot from that camp. I learned show business 101 with them.
What year would you say it was that you met George?
It had to be in there, because we did Fiji for New Year's. We were on the international date line. And so it had to be before it either had to be like the beginning of 1999 or like 98. George introduced me to Prince, you know, so, and that was awesome. That was really cool.
99 was in a period when George was like between albums, pretty much. He had a long period there where he didn't do any actual records.
Yeah,
but he kept touring, always touring.
He was always cutting though, and he did some stuff. He had a deal with Mammoth, and I'm not sure if that was like right around. It had to be after '99, like maybe. Yeah, it had to be after '99. But he was always recording though, always. Still is. He probably recording right now.
If he's not, I don't know if you've been watching him on social media, but he's been into painting this year. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's been painting. I got a couple of them paintings.
Oh yeah.
He paid me in a couple pennies. They're worth a lot.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what do you remember your first time in a recording studio, actually laying something down, and how'd you feel being in that environment?
Yeah, I remember my first time. That was like when I was maybe 12 years old, 11 or 12. And I was playing with this band that actually was one of the bands that went off to California. And after I got out of school, I went to go live with them for a little while because they had landed a deal. But it was an awesome experience. It was so exciting to know that we were actually trying to put out our own record. And that song was called "Tell Me the Truth." I'll never forget that song. And that was an amazing experience, because I really thought we had made it, like in our little small town. We're in this like swanky little studio and we're recording and everything. It was cool. Yeah.
I have a list in front of me. It doesn't have all those people that you mentioned, and I mentioned them at the intro. People like Tisha Campbell and Aaron Hall and these people. When you were writing these songs, did you ever go into the studio with any of them, or you pretty much just kind of sold the songs and then they recorded them as they were going to do them? And
No, we were in the studio with them. They were in our studio.
Oh.
Tisha cut in our studio. She cut in our studio. We mixed her at Capitol. Joy Lawrence, we mixed him. I mean, we recorded him at the house at our studio. I don't know who else was on that list. I don't remember, but we would record a lot of those people. We would track them at the house, and then we would mix them somewhere. Sometimes we would track them at a different studio. We were using Larrabee towards the latter part a lot. I don't know if that studio must still exist in LA, right? Larrabee?
I don't know, but it sure is. I mean, I know of it. It's sure famous, but I don't know if it's still around.
Yeah. We made a lot of records there. And yeah, so that was we did a lot of that.
And Mickey Howard and
Mickey I think I cut Mickey at my house, I think. And then at that time Mickey had a girl group. I think she was trying to get me to produce, I think, at one point. I haven't spoken to her in a long time. She's great.
I just had, I don't know if you know Arthur Brown, keyboard player, was with Kiddo. And we were just talking about Mickey Howard because he played with her, and he was saying what a character she was.
Oh, yeah. She is. She's a very talented woman. Yeah.
So what was it like when you went out with P-Funk? And, can you share with viewers your impressions of some of the other band members? Some of them aren't with us anymore, like, the Gary Scheiders and, Peanut and some of these other characters. I don't know if you got to play with Bernie at all, but...
I got to play with them all. I mean, I played with them all. I played with Bootsy. I was on the last, what was that big festival back in the 60s? They redid it. Or was it 60s or 70s? I forget.
Woodstock 99?
Yeah, I did that. I did that with them. I was there. I played with Bernie, and he was amazing. All of those guys are very, very well-read musicians. I mean, you know, Bernie's from Juilliard. He went to Juilliard. You know, Michael Hampton's, you know, amazing. Kid Funkadelic is amazing. If you didn't learn anything from like just standing there, you were something was wrong with you. You know what I mean? You had to at least walk away being some kind of funky, even if you didn't play. Standing around all of that funk. Like I'm standing in between Gary Scheider and Boogie and George over here and Bernie. There's no way that you could not come away being funky, like around all that funk, because I used to stand in between Gary Scheider, who was like one of my closest friends, aside, I mean, in conjunction with George, in the band, and Sir Nose and all the rest of them, and Boogie was on this side. So when we got together on those guitars, and then you got Blackbird over here and Michael Hampton, we was like the guitar. I mean, it was amazing, man. I mean, I miss the sound of that. I used to like sometimes when Michael Hampton would be playing Maggot Brain when we'd be in Europe, I would be like in tears. You know what I mean? Because you really got to know and you could feel the emotion in that. You know, and I don't know if I was crying because of the emotion or if I was crying because I drank too much or something. I don't remember, but it really, I'm just playing. But it was really a great, it was the greatest, one of the greatest experiences to just, you know, get that opportunity to be like over Russia, funkin', you know, Madagascar. Who does that? Like with funk music, you know, and just, you know, they were all like, everybody is just like, you know, they're artists, so they have their temperament, you know, and they just like, just trying to express themselves and do their thing, but, and together they know how to pull together and make it, you know, be that thing that it's, you know, meant to be, you know, which is funky, you know. I think I got one of the best diplomas from that school. Like I couldn't erase that if I wanted to. I mean, sometimes I play and I'm performing somewhere and I can feel Scheider. I can feel them around me. You know, I can feel the energy, you know, and how they would encourage me. They was encouraging. They would be teaching you how to do things. If you were open to learning, they would come up to you, you know. They made me learn stuff, and I was such an unorthodox player. They couldn't believe it. It was like they would pick my guitar up because it's tuned a little different. And you know how sometimes in a sound check people are like picking up each other's axes and playing. They would pick my shit up and be like, "Hey, man, what the hell?" And then they'd say to me, they'd be like, "How are you playing that? How are you coordinate? How are you doing that?" And my whole thing was just determination of just wanting to be a part of it, that I figured out my own way of, you know, making it work and playing it, you know. And they would just, they allowed me the freedom, like to just, you know, just do it. They didn't allow me freedom to like, I mean, you can't just like mess up the classics and no shit like that, but it was a great experience. That's all I can really, I mean, I got so many stories. I want to write a book about it, you know, because it's really something, you know. I miss those guys too. Really miss Scheider and Boogie.
Did you ever do anything up there on stage, maybe that you like missed something or whatever, and maybe George or Gary gave you a look or something, or?
Oh, something that wasn't supposed to be done?
Yeah,
or something
maybe
that's
missed a
supposed to be
cue, or
done.
you threw something in there that wasn't, what they were looking for, or something like that.
With Scheider, only thing that I would do sometimes is like if I might be late, and I only happened like maybe twice. I almost missed the downbeat of the show, and I used to hate to like if I was late, and I would never be late, but like one time I missed the downbeat, the first song, and it's not a good look because they're not late. I don't care what people say about them, what they say about George, and he's not a late person. It has to be some really unusual circumstances for him to be late for a show. He don't play that one. At least when I was with him, he was never late. And so that one you can't take for granted. So I would try to always be in time. And I remember Scheider checking me. He said, man, because I was there with my girl, and she had drove me there, and we had just got there, and I'm running to the stage like right before the show was getting ready to start. It's like 10,000 or so people out, and I got there just in time. And they get to the point where they count on you to be there for a certain thing, to hold up your end, and it's not that they can't do it without you, but it's just like you're part of the family, So, but he checked me. He was like, "Hey, Kat, don't let that happen again. Don't, that's your reality check." He'd be like, but that was my man, Scheider. He was my man. He was my man.
Garrett's doing a lot of cool stuff now too. I'm proud of the way he's, developed his craft.
Yeah. He's doing it. Yeah. He's got the podcast, I think.
Yeah.
He's doing pretty good.
There's much more to this great Truth and Rhythm interview. Just continue on to the next part of the episode. Also, be sure to subscribe to this channel. If you've already done so, please share it with friends. And become a member by joining Truth and Rhythm on Patreon, or consider donating at funkiest.net. Thank you very much.